So the other day I was going through my comments and someone suggested I watch a movie called Hereditary. And boy, oh boy, is this one unhinged movie. It's super dark, twisted, creepy, and just downright unsettling. And of course, I loved it. Why? Because I'm sick in the head, okay? So today we're diving deep into Hereditary, a film so spooky and dark that I'm warning you now, you'll need to sleep with the lights on for like a week straight. So grab your popcorn, your emotional support dog, maybe a stress ball, because this movie is a very wild ride. Let's get into it. The movie starts off letting us know a woman by the name of Ellen Taper Lee has passed away at the age of 78 after a prolonged battle with an illness. She passed away at her daughter Annie's house on April 3rd, 2018. She was a beloved wife and a devoted mother to Annie, and also a devoted grandmother to Annie's two children, Peter Graham and Charlie Graham. We find out that she is survived by her son-in-law, Dr. Stephen Graham, so Annie's husband, and she will forever be missed. Rest in peace, Ellen Taper Lee. I will say that this movie has a great use of sound and amazing stage design. The intro is actually a dollhouse replica of the actual house and actors zoomed out. And upon zooming in, it's the actual set and actors, and it's just super well done, creepy stuff. Like, take a look at this. Fun fact, they actually used custom sets on sound stages to give the movie a more dollhouse vibe, and I'm just calling it. I think it was a great idea.
Nice.
So meet the main character energy, Annie Graham. She's a miniature artist, which is, pretty niche, but hey, we all gotta find our calling somehow. Am I right? She lives with her husband, Steve, who's a psychiatrist, basically the guy who tries to help everybody, but can't help himself. They also have two kids, Peter, who's 16 and definitely the kind of kid who gets invited to parties he shouldn't be at, and Charlie, the 13-year-old who's super weird, but also kind of cool in a way that screams future serial killer. She kind of just goes around making weird sounds like, which will come into play a bit later. Now, the movie starts with a funeral. Annie's mom, Ellen, has passed away, and surprise, guess what? This woman was so secretive, even her funeral has more guests than Annie expected, and many of whom she does not recognize.
Hi.
So obviously, this is going to be a thing, right? Annie's like, great. Now I'm in a room full of people I didn't even know existed. It's just classic family drama right off the bat. After the funeral, Annie finds some cryptic notes from her late mother, as well as seeing her ghost, which is very foreboding. Very creepy. So at this point, things are shaping up to be very dark and very mysterious. Oh, and we also see Annie's miniature exhibits that are just downright off-putting. Like, I'm talking, she recreated her breastfeeding her child while her mother shows her how to do it. It's really weird, bro. It's really weird. Let's not forget we see the young Charlie in school basically having serial killer vibes and thoughts, which is extremely unhinged. She goes and cuts the head off a bird that accidentally hit the window. It's
What the hell is even that?
We also have Peter, who is literally just a stoner and a pure gooner. I mean, just take a look at these texts.
Yeah, boy.
A bit later, the cemetery calls the family and informs the husband, Steve, that Ellen's body has already been desecrated, which just adds to the dark and mysterious vibes. We know these vibes, and we do not like these vibes.
What does that mean, desecrated?
So after the funeral, Annie joins a support group because, grieving. She opens up about how she had a super great relationship with her mom. And by super great, I mean it was a disaster. Her mom had DID and dementia, so you already know it was extremely rough. We find out that Annie's father died when Annie was just a baby, which is very sad, and her brother was actually schizophrenic who wound up taking his own life. So she's been through the ringer and has had a very traumatic life. And again, this just adds to the extreme dark tone of this movie. Let's all give a brief moment of silence for our girl Annie Graham. Moving on, we find out that her mom was an emotional wreck, and it wasn't until Annie's daughter, Charlie, came along that Ellen suddenly became a great grandma, because nothing says family bonding like waiting for the right grandkid to appear, which is very sus, very sus. We see Charlie wander into the woods near her house with her severed bird head, where she sees someone sitting inside a circle of fire. Like, this movie is so weird and creepy, but I like how unsettling it is. Why? Because I'm sick, okay? That's why.
Guys, I'm really sick.
Meanwhile, we see Peter has been invited to a party. Oh joy, of course. Annie forces Peter to take his sister Charlie along because, when does anything good ever happen to these people? Fast forward a bit, we see Peter leaves his sister Charlie unattended and alone at the party so he can go smoke some of the devil's lettuce with his crush. And he tells her to just chill, hang out, and eat some cake. Now, Charlie has a super deadly walnut allergy, so guess what? She eats the cake that has, you guessed it, walnuts. And boom, anaphylactic shock. And suddenly, her life takes a turn for the worse. Now, instead of calling 911, Peter decides he's going to drive Charlie to the hospital. And guess what happens next? Peter swerves to avoid a dead deer, because apparently that's where we're at now, and poor Charlie gets freaking decapitated by a telephone pole. I mean, come on. This is super brutal stuff, guys. Like, holy shit. It was nar. Rest in peace, little Charlie, dude. Like, holy fuck, this movie's insane. I can't even show you this scene without blurring it out, but you should 100% watch this movie if you want to be shook for the rest of your life. And what are the odds? Peter, he's not a great driver, and overall, just kind of a piece of dog. He decides to just drive home, because why not, right? He leaves the headless body of his sister Charlie in the backseat of his mom's car. Like, bruh, come on, this dude should be in prison, but we gotta have a movie, so he's not in prison. And of course, his mom Annie is the one to find the body the next morning, and let me just say, so much for breakfast. Am I right?
What did you eat today? I ate nothing! Nothing!
Now, naturally, the family's totally falling apart at this point. Peter's extremely depressed and traumatized, and rightfully so. Annie, his mom, is pretty much about to lose it on him and more or less resents him for causing the accident that killed Charlie, which can't say I blame her. And their dad, Steve, well, he's just trying to keep it all together. Like, hey, that's enough. Let's just talk it all out, guys. How does that make you feel? Typical psychiatrist stuff. And spoiler alert, it doesn't work. Annie finds a new friend in her grieving support group by the name of Joan, because nothing says healing like bonding over your grief and trying to talk to your dead kid's ghosts. Joan's like, hey, let me show you how to do a seance. And Annie's like, sure, why not? You've grabbed me 100 times in public, and this can't possibly end horribly. This is a big mistake, bruh. If there's one thing we learned from this channel, you don't go messing with ghosts, voodoo, hoodoo, or any kind of demonic smile type entities. You just don't do it, dog. It's gonna be a no for me, bro. And this is where shit starts to get pretty real, or even more real than it already has. So fast forward, it does go horribly wrong. Everything goes to shit and completely haywire. Annie manages to convince her husband Steve and her son Peter to help her hold the seance, and sure enough, Annie gets possessed by Charlie's ghosts. We have objects flying around and smashing all over the place. Peter's freaked out. Annie's talking in Charlie's creepy ass little voice.
Mom? Mom?
And I'm not gonna lie, fam, this movie is so fucking creepy, and it just has such a great use of sound design and overall just very unsettling vibes. So Annie's talking in Charlie's voice and, just continuously going off and yapping, and she won't stop because she's fully possessed at this point, so she's just yapping in Charlie's voice. And Peter freaks out and he wants her to stop, but she can't because she's possessed, and this is until her husband Steve throws water on her. Real 90 Day Fiance moment. But hold up. As Peter begins to get haunted by some supernatural forces, Annie suspects that Charlie's spirit has become vengeful and possibly demonic. She begins to see images manifesting in Charlie's sketchbook that depict Peter in a very threatening manner. So she decides to throw the book into the fireplace. However, as she does so, her clothes go up in flames at the same time that the book catches on fire. Her clothes only stop burning when she pulls the book out from the flames. We also briefly see that Joan, the woman from the emotional support group, has been doing some sort of demonic ritual type situation type deal involving pictures of Peter, which is definitely not good. Then things really take a sharp turn into, oh, this is just typical family drama, right? Wrong. Annie goes through her mother's old belongings and finds a photo album. So yeah, Annie discovers that her mom was, wait for it, the leader of a coven, and Joan was one of her acolytes. Yeah, it turns out Mom wasn't just weird, she was a full-on occultist, brother. Who knew? Also, we're introduced to a demonic entity by the name of Paimon, a demon king who loves to possess people. And surprise, Peter is the new target host. So scary, bro. Also, fun fact, Paimon is actually one of the 8 kings of hell, which is kind of a what the moment, you know? What is this movie, bro? This movie's unhinged, dog, I'm telling you. So moving along, we see Peter is outside his school, just enjoying his lunch and, you know, kind of munching on his dino nuggies. We see in the distance, Joan, the member from the emotional support group that has taught Annie how to do the seances, appears in the background and attempts to expel Peter's spirit from his body for the demon king Paimon. We then see Peter in class while he is taken over by an unseen force. It twists his arm and slams his head against the desk super fucking hard, breaking his nose. Poor Peter, bro. He had nothing to do with any... Well, I guess he kind of deserves it for killing Charlie, but I guess that's, you know, it's in perspective. I don't know. So things go from bad to really bad. Steve, their dad, is still in denial, but Annie at this point is getting desperate and seems like she's pretty much insane. She's like, I can't burn this sketchbook. It's got Charlie's drawings, and it also catches me on fire. So Steve, you're going to have to do it. Well, guess what, Steve? You're wrong. You're dead wrong. Stop being in denial.
Stop it. Get some help.
Annie winds up taking the sketchbook and throwing it into the fire, and we see that her husband Steve bursts into flames. Yeah, you heard that right. Flames. Poof. Homeboy's gone. Rip. See you later, Steven. Get that psychiatrist bullshit out of here. Just insane, bro. While Steven is being lit on fire, we see Annie watching horror, of course, but her expression suddenly just goes blank and void as she is taken over by the same unseen force that possessed Peter in class earlier. It's so scary, dude. It's so scary. We then see Peter wake up in his bed, and yeah, this scene is unhinged, man. It's unhinged. We see his mom Annie, who is possessed, just kind of climbing on the walls like she's Spider-Man, and overall just being very goddamn scary and horrifying. And I'm definitely gonna have this in my nightmares, but I did it for the cause, y'all. Like, I'm down for the cause, bro. So a now possessed Annie chases Peter all throughout the house, and in the background we see a bunch of naked coven members kind of begin gathering inside and around the house, which is unhinged. Bruh, the way Annie be climbing on the walls is just fucking kooky out there, brother. Peter attempts to hide in the attic. However, Annie manages to follow him up there, where she then proceeds to behead herself with a piece of piano wire. So she just casually cuts her own head off with piano wire. And I'm like, what? Why? Like, all while she's floating, bro. It's crazy. I mean, this movie just goes full throttle at the end, bro. Like, all gas, no brakes. Meanwhile, we see the naked coven members watch from the shadows. Some real creepy gooner again, you know. Peter, of course, freaks out and he tries to escape, but spoiler alert, he jumps out of the attic window, and I guess he falls to his death, or maybe he just knocks himself unconscious. I'm not sure. It's not good either way. It's not good. But wait! He's reanimated by the power of a glowing orb. Because hey, why not? Why not, dude? Peter gets up and is now kind of doing the same clicking sound that Charlie was making earlier in the movie, implying that Charlie was possibly possessed by the Demon King Paimon all along, which is a nice touch if you're following along in the movie. We then see Annie's headless corpse float into Charlie's treehouse, where Peter decides to follow it. Inside the treehouse, we see Joan and all the naked members of the coven, as well as the headless corpse of Peter's mother Annie and his grandmother, whose body was desecrated and also missing her head, are all worshiping a mannequin with Charlie's severed head crowned and placed as the head of the mannequin. Literally, this is just a shrine that is twisted and unhinged as the naked coven members are all bowing and they're on their knees, and overall this scene is super creepy, bro. It's super creepy. We see Joan remove the crown and place it on Peter's head, addressing him as Charlie. And Joan, you're just a little You're just a little She then proclaims that Charlie has been Paimon all along, and that the coven has corrected his female body and given the Demon King his preferred male host, Paimon, one of the 8 kings of hell. Like, what the is this movie, bro? Like, it's crazy.
Hell Paimon!
So now Peter, who's actually Charlie's spirit, gets crowned as the new King Paimon, because nothing says a happy ending like having a demon king living inside your body while everyone around you worships your decapitated family members, you know?
Hell Paimon!
Roll credits. Roll credits. So, was Hereditary worth watching? I mean, yeah. Shout out to the person who suggested I watch this movie, because I actually really enjoyed it. You know, it was a wild ride, bro. It was a wild ride. If you're looking for family-friendly fun, maybe go watch The Incredibles instead. But if you're into creepy stuff and, you know, don't mind loads and loads of demons and decapitations, and you're a fan of the dark, creepy, and mysterious, I would say Hereditary is definitely for you. This was a movie unlike any other. I don't think I've seen anything quite as dark and quite over the top as this. And I really like that this movie was more or less just relying on it being so unsettling and creepy for its overall scare factor. It didn't really count on jump scares. Although I love jump scares, I think it's impressive when a movie scares you without even jumping out at you and kind of leaves you traumatized and shook for many, many days after you watch it. So yeah, I would say Hereditary is definitely worth watching, and Hereditary is definitely for you. But let me know your thoughts on Hereditary down below in the comments. If you have any suggestions for a movie you'd like to see a video on, make sure to drop those down below as well. As always, if you enjoyed this breakdown, make sure to like and subscribe to the channel. I upload new videos just like this one every single week. Thank you all so much for watching. Much love to you all, and I will see you next time. Bye.